Is there bias in South Africa's media? And would it be so wrong if media organizations shared where their bias is? That's our main discussion today. Later, we chat to Spelele Ngubane from the Durban University of Technology about how social media views affect celebrities. We will find out how music streaming services are competing for audiences in Kenya. That's what's coming up today. Hello and welcome to Media and Society on SABC News, Impartial and Independent. My name is Rams Mabote and it's good to be back. This is where we look at the intersection between media and audiences. This show is not complete, however, without your say. Connect with us via our social media channels and share your views and concerns about how the media works and what we feed you. Hashtag SABC Media and Society and call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. But let's start here. In the past, there have been various accusations that South Africa's media has shown bias to various political parties. The SABC has been probed and widely praised for a cleanup process, even though of late some of people have shared worries that there could be an effort to reverse the gains made. The now defunct The New Age newspaper came under scathing criticism in the State Capture Commission. Elsewhere in the world, there is a belief that some media organizations are clear on which side to take or they take. In South Africa, news organizations always say that they are fair and favor no one in their reporting. Let's take a look at this insert.
There are parts of the world where it's clear which directions media organizations take and which leader, political party or stance they support. In America, for example, it's been widely accepted that there are right-leaning media organizations as there are left-leaning organizations. Some politicians have attacked the media as having taken a stance when things don't seem to go their way. Think about when Donald Trump was campaigning for a second term as American president.
I think it's very clear. I think it's very clear that there are people in your profession that write fake news.
As China was strengthening its grip on Hong Kong, pro-democracy newspaper Apple Daily was forced to shut down as its assets were frozen a few months ago. This happened after 5 executives of the publications were arrested. Let's come home. The editor of the Star newspaper, Sifiso Mahlangu, says there are news organizations in South Africa who take sides and says this shouldn't be so.
The media should never try and lead society in thinking in a particular way, like we've seen with media in this country, pro or against a particular politician, pro or against a particular view.
Of late, the Star has published open letters written by various politicians that includes EFF Julius Malema, Tourism Minister Lindiwe Sisulu, and Justice Minister Ronald Lamola.
There's no way we could have ignored Lindiwe Sisulu's letter. It talks to our issues of law. It talks to our issues of democracy. It talks to our issues of transformation. And I think for me, that was part of the selection criteria. Interestingly, people have a challenge with the line she put about judges. But that opinion piece dealt with issues of transformation, economic transformation, judicial transformation. It spoke about issues of democracy, issues of well-being and issues of blackness.
Mahlangu says this does not mean that they share the views of the politicians whose opinion pieces they publish. He says, as a publication, they are trying to foster a robust discussion in a young democracy.
The responsibility of media, however, is to provide the readers with all of those thoughts so society can make up their own minds. The problem is when we try and filter every other thought. When you know that something's coming up on a particular paper on Sunday and it's going to be anti the public protector Mkhwebane. It's going to be anti-Ace Magashule. It's going to be anti-Jacob Zuma. You kind of feel, that certain newspapers have taken the stance to be completely on the other side, or even being members of a particular faction. Sometimes you really think that some media should register with the IEC.
That's the Star's editor, or chief editor, Sfiso Mahlangu, ending that piece. He feels that the media take sides in South Africa. And if it's true, then should the media not open up and publicly declare which side they take? Joining me to have this conversation, Professor Shepard Mpofu, Media and Communications Department at the University of Limpopo, and also Reggie Mwalusi, who is Executive Director at the South African National Editors Forum, SANEF. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining me. Remember, you can also join this conversation by asking questions or making comments, sharing your views on today's topic. Call us on 011-714-6841 or 011-714-6842. Also, you can be part of the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag SABC Media and Society. Let's start with you, Reggie Mugaisu Dumela. Is Sifiso correct in his take about the media taking sides?
I think Rams, if I'm going to say Sfiso is right, then I'll be doing a disservice to myself. I think Sfiso needs to present us with proof. He needs to present us with some evidence to say, like he cites, some Sunday newspapers take sides. I mean, we can all go out and get our main national Sunday papers today and analyze those Sunday newspapers. When he says they are anti the names that he mentioned. But I mean, you take a glance through, say, your Sunday Times or your City Press this morning, the same newspapers that have been said to be pro the President Ramaphosa. You'd find that those newspapers, they are the opinion makers in those papers. They don't hold back. They don't hold back in criticizing the governing party. They don't hold back in criticizing the president. So in short, I'll say I disagree with him.
Would it be fair, though, to say perhaps inadvertently sometimes the media take a side? They may not be actively taking a side. It may be some, not bias, but maybe soft spot for government or President Ramaphosa. Would it be fair to say that?
I wouldn't. It wouldn't be safe. Then the media wouldn't be doing their job. It wouldn't be doing their job where they'll be doing a huge disservice to their audiences or readers where they are taking a soft spot towards President Cyril Ramaphosa. I mean, we have recently seen, if the media was taking a soft spot towards that, we would, the issue we're dealing with now, the issue of Patricia Mokgopeni at the SABC, previously, it was heard of when President Ramaphosa is somewhere and there's a call to cover the president. The editor-in-chief at the SABC used to move and jump over hoops to go and interview the president. In this case, it didn't happen. So I think it wouldn't be correct to say inadvertently they do that. I think as media professionals, as editors, we are always mindful to say we need to do our job because we said we put the reader first, and that's what needs to happen.
Reggie, you're going to have to agree with me that what the media covered during the presidency of Jacob Zuma and in the current presidency of Cyril Ramaphosa, there was a clear and strong distinction of the takes.
Look, there's been quite a clear, distinguished coverage, obviously. I mean, President Ramaphosa took office, I think, 4 years back, let's say. He took office against the euphoria that the media was covering across the country of Thomamina after the so-called 9 wasted years. Then there was so much hope, and the media covered the president. They widely covered, citing Hugh Masekela's song Thomamina, and that was covered. And there was that positive, outlook of what lies ahead in this presidency. But it was soon realized that no, maybe we were too positive. maybe we are not making so much progress with our president, with this government. So let's, and the media is continue doing what it does best.
My ex is still in the water for you. I'm coming back for you just now, Reg. Prof, let me welcome you here and say, in 2015, Bongani Mbindwane wrote about what he said was a trust deficit between the public and the media in South Africa. The opinion was published by Daily Maverick, said this was because the media bias shared as opinion pieces. So it was shared through opinion pieces, that's what he says. Fast forward to 2019, an academic paper by Lucia Daly, Kamas Natile, and Lawrence Cornelissen, which looked at South Africa's media bias, said that it had identified various tonality biases by media houses. Do you agree, Prof, with these views that suggest that there is a bias based on tone and the opinion pieces that the media use?
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers. Definitely, I agree that the media are biased variously. They might be pro-establishment or anti-establishment, and this is sort of a natural existence of the media in any society. But if you look at the South African case, there is a clear bias and media camps. You will remember when there was a Tumamina and RET, or when we talk about Tumamina and RET journalists and media houses, and this suggests that there are certain papers that are inclined to cover positively, though the so-called RET camp, and there are media houses that are inclined to cover positively the Tumamina agenda, as it were. And by the way, this has to be treated as a natural existence, or even though not justifiable, but is possible to have in any democratic society where there's a multiplicity of voices in the public sphere. But the issues of bias in terms of tonality, definitely they are there, and the coverage of issues, they are definitely there. And one interesting book is by Sundaram when they were starting the Gupta channel. It should be page 119 for those who have read it, where they present to President Zuma, then President Zuma, the concept and the sort of dry run of the news and stuff. And Zuma realizes this is actually a PR exercise for the ANC and for Jacob Zuma. And then he tells Atul Gupta, no, this channel doesn't have to be about me. It has to cover even my opponents and the opposition and those who are against me. And this will suggest not only the Gupta TV and NN7 were pro-Zuma and pro-ANC in their coverage of issues, but this is a phenomenon that was happening across the country.
Okay.
And there are different reasons which will actually explain this, one of which is the political economy of the media, and then the other one is the consumers that they're trying to serve, and the political agenda of the owners at the end of the day.
We have a caller. Let's take a call from Temba in Gqeberha. Morning, Temba.
Good morning, Rams. Good morning. How are you?
I'm dark and lovely, mate. How are you?
Hey, I'm good, Rams. Thanks for the good show in the morning on Sunday.
Thank you.
Nice opportunity to talk to you and your colleagues.
Go ahead, Temba.
Oh, thanks, Rams. First thing, media is not about disseminating news or education or educating or informing. Media is about rands and cents. It's about money. So the headlines that they put up, the stories, the angles that they take, they are positioning those stories in order to get listeners or viewership or readership. And where there's money, they will position the headline to get money from that readership. So South African society is made up of two societies. And media will always focus positively on those who are rich or middle income earners who can buy or go into sites to read their news, forgetting about the poor. Where they come in to put stories about the poor is when they are negative towards the Zuma or RET forces. That's where they're making their money. So anybody who says they are not taking sides, that person thinks less of us, that we are intelligent enough to see and read and understand the angles that they take. So the Star, big up to the Star.
Siyabulela Themba, enkosi kakhulu. We're going to take a break. We continue with this conversation. After the short break, remember, you can be part of this conversation on social media, via Twitter, hashtag SABC Media and Society. Of course, call us like Themba did on 714-6841 on the dialing code 011. Thank you for staying with us here on Media and Society. We continue with our discussion on whether the media is biased or not in South Africa. If the media organizations shared the same or shared their bias, would it be good for all of us? Would it make it easy for us to understand where they stand? Remember, you can connect on social media via hashtag SABC Media and Society, or alternatively, call us on 011-714-6841 or 6842. We continue our conversation with Professor Shepard Mpofu and Reggie Mwalusi from SANEF. I'm going to take a call first, though, before I go to my guest. Sam is calling from Rosebank. Hello, Sam.
Hi, sir. How are you?
I'm well, mate. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, man. My take is some medias are very biased. I'll just make an example. Remember the VPS situation? The likes of EFF were painted as the corrupt. But when it comes out that actually the people that are corrupt, they are on the side of the ANC. Everything was just EFF. Every time when EFF speaks, VPS. But the fact of the matter is, the media, that's Daily Maverick, they sit on that agenda. That makes me believe that, you know what, maybe they're right, EFF, they're wrong, whatever. But when the court cases started, when I see different faces, none of the EFF leadership was there. It was said, hence again, the media must look at themselves, that this country, if it wasn't for Twitter, we were going to just listen to what they're saying. That's why I don't buy any newspaper anymore. I'd rather just go online and see what is there, because that's it for me.
We thank you for staying with TV, Sam. Thank you. Let me go back to our guest. Reggie, is actually bias a wrong thing? What's wrong with bias? Can't people just be biased and stay with their story and milk it to death without apologizing? What's wrong with taking a side?
I think your question also is in relation to objectivity and subjectivity, the whole debate that's been had over the years. If you remember well, I'll give you an example of them. If you remember well, I think it was one of the elections, the previous elections, where some of our newspapers like Mail and Guardian and Business Day publicly declared the political parties they were supporting at the time, and they were condemned, they were criticized for that. So bias, I think me and you, in our subjective views, we know where we stand, we know what we like. But I think us as journalists, and Prof can agree, where when we were taught as journalism students, the bias was unheard of. All that was preached for us as media was impartiality, that we ought to be impartial. And that's exactly what we have to be. That's exactly what we have to work hard at. We have to be impartial.
May I interrupt you, Reg? Do you, as SANEF, look at bias? Do you focus on it as a subject? Do you interrogate it? Do you talk to your constituencies about it?
Condemn it.
But do you interrogate? Do you get into conversations and talk about it?
Absolutely, absolutely. If you were part of our last council meeting on how various issues were discussed and all that, and it will be the same with our next council meeting next week, Saturday. We interrogate this, we talk about them, whether from the press code, whether our code of conduct, how we behave as an organization and members that belong to us. That's always been discussed. And we always say to our editors, they should know and they should encourage their readers to say there's the press code. I mean, like your previous caller, if they felt that the stories that were being covered by the Daily Maverick were not fair, they were biased, the Daily Maverick is part of the press council. They subscribe to the press code. So they should write to the press council and say, no, we are not happy with this story because this story is biased and this story wants to label the one political party as corrupt and the other as not, whereas we know that the opposite is true.
Prof Mpofu, how do we really deal with bias? I come from Soweto. If there is a story about Soweto that paints Soweto in a good light, I'm likely to agree with that story. My background should affect how I report, shouldn't it?
Definitely it does, including your political biases as an individual. I think they will also influence how you angle your stories. But as Reggie says, that bias is not encouraged, it's unheard of. It's something that media professionals and editors should frown upon. But this seeps into the newspapers, into the media. And hence you have Mbalula accusing SABC for taking for influencing the election results in a way, right? And that speaks to the perceptions that are out there. So what's more important, again, is to not have that trust deficit amongst your consumers or your readers and your viewers, which is quite important because if we again look at most African democracies, including South Africa, is relatively a young democracy where issues of trust in the media or trust in the media is quite high and is expected to be high. And the media are actually supposed to sort of bring the society together, fight against corruption, educate the society for vigilant citizenry and the like. And therefore, when bias comes in, it sort of destabilizes that democracy, destabilizes that perception of a cohesive society, and it also undoes the power of vigilant citizenry. And at the end of the day, if you don't have trust in the media, your fourth estate that looks at other estates, the government, the judiciary, and the parliament, then at the end of the day, you have a society that is sort of disintegrating in terms of being informed, and their agency as citizens is sort of eroded. So bias is quite problematic and should not be encouraged. And newspapers should not actually come out in the open and tell us who they are supporting. As the other caller said, because of social media, we now know where certain media houses stand. You run a story about Soweto, which could be positive. You run a story about Soweto, which is negative. And somebody closer to the story will tell you, no, but this is not the truth. This is on social media. They will tell the journalists, they will monitor the journalists and tell you, no, you're not doing right. And you don't want that situation in society where you have a fifth estate of audiences now monitoring and shepherding and critiquing the fourth estate. And this will actually suggest that there are actually problems within the media industry, and their service to the democracy cannot be trusted to the extent that we would like our media to be trusted by audiences and also by other interested commercial entities.
We're going to take another call. Mr. Zondo, in and around Springs. Mtiani, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Ngiyaphila kunjani?
Ngiyaphila bhuti wami. No, sifuna ukuphawula sizwa le ndaba yakho bhuti, very important. I-media yethu asidoubt bhuti, i-bias ithatha iside more than the word iside. Lo bhuti lo ongagqokile into sengikhohle igama lakhe, lo ongagqokile into blue. Makathi the 9 wasted years. Lento yabo yokuthi former president Zuma waste 9 years. Thina kunezinto esibona ngamehlo emadolobheni wangakithi. Sathi hamba 100 kilometers bhuti siyofuna i-ATM. During uPresident uZuma izinto ezingashiwo kushiwo ezi-right ngaleli side elinye. Asithandi umphakathi wethu ngisilidwe ngoba kufuneka kuthiwe ubani ungcono. Siyabona kumedia ukuthi kubias. And South Africa bhuti iya deep every day enkohlakalweni ngalobu bias bemedia.
Ngiyabonga Mtiani. Thank you very much. That view, by the way, is out there. And as I said to Reggie, maybe it's not necessarily wrong to have those views. But unfortunately, one of the things that affect media objectivity is time. And my time has run out on this conversation. I need to thank my guest this morning, Professor Shepard Mpofu from the University of Limpopo, and Reggie Mwalusi, the Executive Director at the South African National Editors Forum, SANEF. But before we go on a break, this is what South Africans think about media and bias.
I think it is not easy to generally point out whether the media is biased or not. Well, there might be isolated cases or incidents that I cannot think of right now, but I think journalists are mindful of such while doing their job, and I've seen them do their job extensively.
I think the media is somehow biased because of the following reasons. Somehow their focus is in certain political individuals who are always covering any area of their development. And one other thing that I have to pinpoint is that attention is linked to politicians so much.
I personally believe that the media is a little bit biased. It's not as impartial as it's supposed to be, because you just find out that there's this story that's doing the rounds in every publication, and they pushing the same narrative.
Thank you very much to my guest this morning, Prof. Shepard Mpofu, Media and Communications Department at the University of Limpopo, and Reggie Mwalusi, Executive Director at SANEF. Now, in the past, it was difficult for us to get to interact with celebrities, as that space was largely mediated by journalists who work on radio, television, and newspapers. The advent of social media, however, meant that we now can see things differently. Now the mystery of celebrities is gone. It has been removed. Famous people now share their information about their lives, careers, and promote their work. After the death of veteran and celebrated actor Patrick Shai, we heard from his family and friends that he'd struggled with what he felt was a public attack towards him on social media after he'd posted a video that they didn't like recently. After his death, a number of celebrities took to social media to share their own dissatisfaction with how a lot of members of the public think it's always open season when engaging with celebrities on social media. Here are some of those celebrities' views. Let's take a look at this clip.
About Patrick Shai. And all those people that came for him for likes, I hope you're happy now. I hope you're happy.
Social media is toxic. Like, guys, the social media is going abantu aba cold. Social media is going abantu abanganathando. Sometimes kunabanye abantu banethwayo empilweni zabo. Bayanethwa. Yazi bayenzani? Bayenza show ukuthi mabanethwa kanjalo bangena emizini yabantu bavula ama-roof wabanye abantu ukuthi imvula zingenele kwabanye abantu bafile lento bayifilayo. Bathi misery likes company. Misery likes company. Abantu abe social media ba toxic kabuhlungu.
TikTok is losing its fun and the purpose of why it was created. Twitter, it's been normal. The cancel culture, the bullying, the vileness, and we now live in a generation of happy pictures and sad hearts and dark places.
Please be a part of this conversation as well. Call us on 011-714-6841 or 011-714-6842 to discuss social media usage, especially when engaging celebrities in digital media. We have a lecturer at the University of Durban University of Technology. I'm a bit old for these names. I came from Technicons. Spelele Ngubane, hello and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Rams, and viewer at home. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you, Mbovu. Let's start at the top. Let's treat me like a 2-year-old. What was the original purpose of social media?
Okay, so as you know that we are human beings and we need to communicate, and we've always communicated. So with the development of technology, we find ourselves with these social media platforms where our communication is being made easier. So, and there's this multiplicity of platforms to interact, to share ideas, to pass on information, and to do a whole lot of things that have to do with communication. That's from the social aspect of these platforms. But obviously from the economic ones is that there are media companies that are making money out of it. But from our side as, ordinary people, it is to communicate and share ideas.
In general terms, how do celebrities use social media? Do they use it in the same way that you described to me its purpose?
Well, for celebrities, it's a bit different. Mainly, first, they are human beings like you and I, but you'll find that because the work that they do is like more of a brand, so they go there to market their work or to market themselves and just to keep themselves visible in the public eye. So they don't necessarily would engage like how I do to greet people or to post a picture of myself doing anything. You do have those who do that, but primarily they have been able to use these platforms to basically brand themselves. Obviously, those who choose to tell us about their lives, about their everyday activities, it comes with some sort of response from the public, and we do have the likes of those. So it just depends on an individual celebrity on how they use the social media platforms.
And that's fair enough, isn't it? I mean, they can't feed us stuff and expect not to get feedback from us. That would be unfair. We can't be just stooges who take stuff from celebrities and we don't engage with them as public.
Obviously, we are their followers, and they feed us stuff, and we consume their content that they, even if it's scripted. So with whatever that they post for us, we are bound to respond to that. And with that, because it's open communication, unlike in the past, as you highlighted when you started, that it was very mediated, where we relied on journalists from the Sunday World or Ilanga Langesonto to give us access and actually choose for us what is that we need to know about the particular individual. Now we've got direct access to celebrities, and obviously each and every day they have to deal with whatever the public is saying to them.
I know very well, Guta, you're not in the mental health space, but with clear evidence, does it show that opinions on social media do affect celebrities' mental health? Do you think there should be greater public education and to be sensitized a bit about how we use social media in engaging with celebrities?
Definitely they do. We have had multiple cases where celebrities have come out to say how much it's affects them, it affects their mental health. And I believe that we do need public education about the usage of social media. And it's called media literacy. I'm sure many people know that it's called media literacy. And I think that in basic education, it is included under the life orientation subject. But how much of it is covered and the practicality of it, it's a different conversation we can have, or to explore the curriculum itself. But I want to say that when we engage on social media, we are not just, flying from somewhere and then we just land onto that space. We are human beings, we've got values and we've got ethics. So, because I'm not going to go out onto the streets and start, hurling insults at someone or start shouting anyhow I want, then I would be admitted to mental institution.
People do. People go out and insult. They shout at people. They throw insults at them. So we know it happens.
I mean, Rams, obviously we frown upon those people. So what I'm saying, the point I'm trying to make is that when we get onto this space now, the digital or the online space, it seems like people just get discouraged, behind their screens to just type in or to send any form of communication that might offend, or not offend, but humiliate another person. So there is a need, for us to go out and teach, and maybe also to do what you call conscious raising. Remember when in the late 90s, early 2000s, when we had the HIV epidemic, really, people were confused, or people were misunderstanding what it means, and what a person who is infected by HIV, what it means to be with that person. Subjects like LO in schools was introduced also to as a response, to teach and to raise conscience of the people. So again, it means there's a need now to also integrate this in our education system. But the big education begins at home. What is it that we are saying at home to teach, children about these social media platforms?
Well, we've asked our audiences to engage. They're calling us. Andrew is calling from the Northwest. Good morning, Andrew.
Very good morning to you. How are you?
I'm well, mate. How are you?
I'm good. I'm great. Thanks for a great show this morning.
Thank you.
I'm just going to be very brief, Nate. Some time ago, Kevin Hart, the actor from America, from the U.S.?
The short one.
Yeah, the short one, the funny guy.
Yeah.
The funny guy was in South Africa some time ago doing a visit just before COVID hit. There was one thing that he mentioned which really caught my heart. He said, we in South Africa, the media itself, are the ones that's damaging the image of our country overseas, because whatever has been posted here in our country, they have access to it in the overseas. I guess it's around the whole world. They see what's actually the negativity, whatever it is. So I know we are dealing about celebrities. When it comes to celebrities, I'm very, very sad to lose like an icon like Brad Pitt a few days ago. It only shows that there are people with emotions on social media. There are people who, the social media that we currently have, they are brutal. Bro, they destroy you. Wherever you think that you are strong emotionally, mentally, physically, they're gonna tear you apart. There's a journalist who I follow on Twitter. I always only follow Twitter. Whenever she posts positives about politics in South Africa, she gets torn apart left, right, and center. So what I'm trying to say is this: it's a very, very dangerous platform to be on. And I would really advise, because there are some celebrities who love the attention. They love being talked about. They love being trending, and they enjoy that. So it's a very, very brutal place to be. That's all that I'm going to say.
Thank you, Andrew. Not exactly brief as you promised me, but it's okay. Spare, shouldn't the education rather start with celebrities learning how to use social media in such a way that they would avoid to be attacked? And I want you to be very brief. I need to take another call. So Spare, just quickly on that one. Shouldn't the education be the other way around first?
Obviously, when celebrities come into the space, they do not expect, but no one teaches them how to respond to the public. So the buck stops with them to actually learn how to respond, how to use, and when to know that it's time to stop. Because if you have celebrities who say, I'm not continuing with this, I am stopping, or I'm taking a break, I'm going to come back. The likes of Cindy Zatu, who plays Lindu Tikana on the river. She's one person who we just don't know what's happening in her life, and she has chosen to refrain from that space.
And she will live happily ever after. Sydney, good morning.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. So today's topic is a big topic.
Make it bigger, mate.
Yes, sir. I say, can I carry on?
Yes.
Yeah, this thing of social media, here and then I want to blame our government. Our government system is failing us. I think social media, there must be a terms and condition before you post anything there, and then the admin must check that video that you send, so that video cannot be broadcast. They can check that where did you get that video clip. You understand? Because sometimes we do disappoint other families outside there. The families that maybe there's a serious accident, and then when you come to check, the family doesn't even know that their children they were involved in that accident. You understand? But when it comes to the social media, your friends they already knew what's happening there. You see, so I think that it will be good. The advent of the social media, all kind of social media, they must first check that before you post. They must first check that thing. I mean, that video clip that you want to broadcast. And then the other thing is that the social media. If you come check, and not only we are not going. So most of the time we don't buy current. You don't watch TV nowadays, you see, because each and everything now is staying there. Where's job creation now? Things have been stopped. You understand? Because now people they are watching social media. People they are paying more attention to social media. You understand? So I think that
Sydney, I have to run. I got your point. Thank you very much, Sydney. And I actually want to tell you that there's a big growth in the digital media space. It does not mean that there are no jobs created there. We're going to have to conclude quickly, but here's my final question to you. Could you give us a few tips as public on how we can engage on social media? Just normal, easiest tips that we can use.
Okay, Rams. So just maybe to the listener, to the viewer who was just here, that we are a democracy, unfortunately, and we have to keep the communication lines open. Obviously, there has to be a responsibility when we engage on social media. In terms of tips, I mean, I don't think there's a list that I can prescribe to the viewers or to the public, but to say, if it's something that you cannot say face-to-face or in a room full of people, that's like a rule of thumb. If you can't say it in a room full of people, then it's likely that it's not something, that should be said. But be aware that, like in South Africa, we are developing systems or we are developing measures that are going to cap the abuse and the cyberbullying that happens. Or, for example, we've got the Amendment Act, the Film and Publications Board Amendment Act, I think it's 19 of 2020 or 2019, where, the stuff like revenge porn is going to be criminalized. And in as much as these systems are in place, we also need to be aware, the public, that we are causing so much mental health challenges to the people. So before you tweet, before you post, give it a bit of thoughts, how it's going to affect the other person. Put yourself in the shoes of the next person and do not, do something that you wouldn't do in a room full of people.
Methinks celebrities also need to grow thicker skins if they're going to be in the public space. Thank you very much, Spelele Ngubane, digital media lecturer at the Durban University of Technology. After the break, we go to East Africa and Kenya, where music streaming services are competing for audiences. Radio would determine audiences' taste in music. It is no longer so, as the internet beats them in deciding what's popular. Kenya is seeing a rise of local and international music streaming services that want to be preferred choice for local audiences. Let's take a look at this insight.
For many artists, making music is one thing, making money another. But one Africa-focused audio streaming platform based in Kenya could provide the answer.
This is Vivi, the storyteller, aka Bona Sherehe, aka King Solomon II, aka Mbona Hamtembi na Chesa. That's a new one.
At a recording studio in Nairobi, Kenyan musician Nviri is checking how his music is doing on Mdundo. The site is free to users and makes money through advertising. Musicians are paid every time their song is streamed or downloaded, and Mdundo shares 50% of the cash from adverts with the artists. Nviri is one of 90,000 African musicians to have signed up.
In such tough times, we can only depend on streaming. because we don't have events at the moment. And if they are there, they're very little. So they're not very sustainable.
Mdundo was co-founded by Danish national Martin Nielsen and last year listed on the Danish stock market.
Africa is where the big opportunity is right now.
But he could be facing competition. Africa is attracting international audio streaming firms like Spotify and Apple Music. They're keen to capitalize on increasing internet users and rising demand for legal content.
Tell me you want me, baby.
But Nielsen says he's not losing any sleep.
We see that as a really big validation of our model, a validation of the market that we are in. And we are super exciting because we think that with many services pushing people from illegal to legal tiers, the market across Africa will be much bigger than it has ever been before.
Nielsen says Mdundo's users jumped 40% to 7 million in the 6 months to December. The company aims to reach 18 million users by June 2022. To do that, it's using a platform that does not require high data consumption or storage space.
It has helped me reach out to some of these guys that don't have good internet services.
For Nviri, that takes the struggle out of reaching his audience, leaving him to focus on what he does best.
Tell me you want me, baby.
Spotify reckons Africa could be the next big market for music streaming. It's crucial to the Swedish app's goal of 1 billion users. The problem is how to handle payments on a continent where many people don't have bank accounts. Mobile phone companies may have the answer. Spotify has teamed up with mobile payments app M-Pesa, owned by local network Safaricom. Okumu is Spotify's head of music in sub-Saharan Africa.
Some parts of Africa, a lot of African countries are unbanked. So that means they don't use credit cards. And this is very true of a lot of East Africa. In Kenya, you use M-Pesa for the most part. So we ensured to make sure that there was that facility so that the fans don't have so many barriers to access to music, which is something we should all be able to enjoy.
Spotify isn't alone in teaming up with phone networks. African rivals such as Nigeria's Boomplay are making similar moves. Content creators seem to welcome the arrival of the streaming firms. Charles Otieno is a music producer in Kenya.
So when it came to Kenya, now we can access Spotify for artists. You can see the logs, you can see how your music is basically growing.
The new products see phone firms selling music bundles that give subscribers access to streaming firms' content. That should boost revenue for performers and subscriber numbers for the streamers.
Let's conclude with the tweets that you've sent us today, because we want you to communicate with us. Vuyo says, of course not. The media should be objective at all times. The media is very powerful to be allowed to choose a side. Okay? Mtihaha says, media serves its funders, and so ultimately they would be biased towards their views or beliefs of those who fund them. This is why you have journalists who go all out to defend Ramaphosa subjectively. And Mtihaha continues, I have completely lost trust in the mainstream media. Nowadays they exist to peddle narratives that favor their funders rather than informing and educating society. Engineers and society, media could improve in terms of reporting service delivery. They must give more coverage to the engineering profession and engineers who are responsible for infrastructure delivery. Listening to media reports, one might think that service delivery is a prowess of politicians. Nice point, but I think politicians must also, rather engineers must learn how to use the media. Thank you very much for watching and participating on Media and Society on the SABC News channel, independent and impartial. From me, Rams Mabote, and the team, goodbye and God bless.